The transmission cut through the static of deep space like a knife through silence. Commander Sarah Chen froze at her monitoring station aboard the research vessel Harmony, her coffee mug suspended halfway to her lips. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unlike anything she had ever heard. Melodic yet broken, alien yet heartbreakingly familiar in its desperation. "Please, help me. I haven't eaten in 15 days. My children, they're dying." The words came in broken English, accented with sounds no human throat could make. Sarah's hands trembled as she adjusted the frequency, trying to lock onto the source. The signal was weak, fragmented, but unmistakably real. "Dr. Martinez," she called across the bridge. "You need to hear this." The xenobiologist rushed over, his weathered face creased with concern. As the message repeated, his eyes widened. In 30 years of deep space exploration, humanity had found evidence of microbial life, ancient ruins, but never this. "My God," he whispered. "It's asking for help." The transmission coordinates pointed to an asteroid field in the outer rim of the Kepler 442 system, a place no ship had reason to venture. But as the desperate plea echoed through the bridge again, Sarah knew they had no choice. "Change course," she ordered. "Maximum burn." Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead lay the unknown, and a mother's cry that would change everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. Chapter 1. First Contact. The asteroid designated K442 Alpha looked like nothing special from a distance, just another chunk of rock tumbling through the void. But as the Harmony approached, Sarah's instruments began painting a different picture. "Commander," Lieutenant Torres called from the sensor station, his voice tight with confusion. "I'm reading artificial structures inside that asteroid. And life signs." Sarah leaned over his shoulder, studying the readouts. The rock was hollow, carved out with precision that spoke of intelligence and desperation. Thermal imaging showed warm spots, habitation areas perhaps, and something that looked suspiciously like agricultural zones. "It's a ship," Dr. Martinez breathed, his face pressed against the viewport. "Or a home. They've turned an entire asteroid into a living space." The communications array crackled to life again. This time the voice was clearer, closer. "Please. I see your ship. I know you hear me. My name is..." The closest translation is Kira. "I am mother to 7 young ones. We have been hiding here for many cycles, but our food, it is gone." Sarah exchanged glances with her crew. Protocol demanded they report to Earth Command, wait for instructions, follow proper first contact procedures. But the desperation in that voice, it transcended species barriers. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Harmony." She spoke into the communications device, her heart hammering. We hear you, Kira. We want to help." A sound came through the speakers that might have been sobbing or relief, so profound it had no name. "You will help? Even though I am not like you?" Sarah looked around at her crew. Dr. Martinez nodded firmly. Torres gave a thumbs up. Engineer Park, usually the most cautious among them, simply said, "Let's do it." "Yes," Sarah said, "we'll help. Can you show us how to dock with your home?" What followed was the most delicate dance of trust in human history. Kira guided them to a concealed bay within the asteroid, where atmosphere fields and gravitational manipulators, technology far beyond human understanding, allowed the Harmony to land safely. As the airlock cycled and atmosphere readings confirmed breathable air, Sarah felt the weight of the moment. They were about to meet the first intelligent, alien life humanity had ever encountered, and she was doing it not with fanfare or ceremony but because a mother was starving. The inner door hissed open and Sarah stepped through. The chamber beyond took her breath away. Crystalline growths provided soft, bioluminescent light. The walls were smooth, organic-looking, as if the asteroid had been grown rather than carved. And standing before her, clearly weak but maintaining dignity despite everything, was Kira. She was humanoid but distinctly alien, tall and willowy, with skin that seemed to shift between blue and silver depending on the light. Her face was elongated, elegant with large eyes that held depths of intelligence and exhaustion. But it was her hands that caught Sarah's attention, six-fingered, graceful, trembling slightly from hunger. "You came," Kira said. And now Sarah could see that her lips didn't quite match the English words. Some kind of translation device was making communication possible. I wasn't sure anyone would." Behind Kira, smaller figures peered out from alcoves in the walls. The children, no, young ones, Sarah corrected herself, looked even more fragile than their mother. Their large eyes reflected the bioluminescent light like mirrors. "We have food," Sarah said gently. "But first, tell us. What happened? How did you end up here?" Kira's expression darkened and she gestured for them to follow her deeper into the asteroid home. As they walked, she began to speak. "We are the last of the Etheri of the far rim worlds. My people. We were explorers, scientists. We believed the universe held only wonders." Her voice grew heavy. "We were wrong. They entered what appeared to be a communal area, with curved walls covered in what looked like star charts and family portraits. Images of Etheri and better times. In places, that looked like paradise. The Devourers came to our system 3 cycles ago. They consume not just worlds, but life essence itself. Entire planets become barren rock in their wake." Kira sank onto what appeared to be a bioluminescent chair that molded itself to her form. "We tried to fight, we tried to hide. In the end, only a few ships escaped." Dr. Martinez stepped forward carefully. "These Devourers, are they still hunting you?" A shadow passed over Kira's face. "Always. They can sense life across vast distances. That is why we have been so careful, why we hollow out dead asteroids and mask our energy signatures. But now," she gestured to her thin frame, to her children who clung to the walls like frightened spirits, "we grow weak. Soon they will not need to hunt us. We will simply fade." The silence that followed was broken by the smallest of the young ones, barely the size of a human child, but with the same elegant features as Kira. It made a sound that needed no translation, the universal cry of hunger. Sarah's heart broke. She turned to Dr. Martinez. "Get the emergency rations. All of them." "Commander, that's our entire supply for the return journey." "All of them," Sarah repeated firmly. Then to Kira, "How long since you've had a real meal?" 15 days, as I said in my call for help. The children, 12 days. I gave them what little remained." Kira's voice cracked. "A mother should provide. I have failed." "No," Sarah said fiercely. "You've kept them alive. You reached out for help when you needed it. That's not failure, that's courage." As Dr. Martinez and the others brought in supplies, Sarah watched Kira's face transform. Hope, fragile as a soap bubble but unmistakably real, began to bloom in those alien features. But even as they distributed food and watched the Etheri family eat with desperate gratitude, Sarah's mind was racing. The Devourers, a species that consumed life itself and was still hunting these refugees. And somewhere in the back of her thoughts, a terrible question was forming. What if helping Kira had just doomed them all? Chapter 2. The Hunter's Shadow. 3 days had passed since the Harmony had docked with Kira's asteroid home. The Etheri family was stronger now, the haunted look in their eyes replaced by something approaching hope. Dr. Martinez had spent hours learning about their biology, their culture, their technology. Engineer Park was practically drooling over their energy systems. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were living on borrowed time. She found Kira in what the Etheri called the memory chamber, a spherical room where holographic images of her lost homeworld played in endless loops, vast cities that seemed to grow from crystalline trees, oceans that sparkled with bioluminescent life, and everywhere, the graceful forms of the Etheri living in harmony with their environment. It was called Ethros Prime, Kira said without turning around. We had been there for 10,000 of your years. We thought it would be our home forever. Sarah settled beside her, watching the impossible beauty of the lost world. What were they like? The devourers. Kira's skin rippled, shifting to darker hues, a sign of distress, Sarah had learned. Imagine hunger given form, creatures of living shadow and metal, but more than that. They are intelligence without conscience. They study what they consume, learn from it, become stronger. A new image flickered to life, and Sarah wished it hadn't. The things that attacked Ethros Prime were nightmarish amalgamations of organic and mechanical parts, constantly shifting, adapting. But it was their size that truly terrified her. The smallest were the size of buildings, the largest dwarfed mountains. They came first as scouts, Kira continued. We tried to communicate, to understand what they wanted. They spoke to us once, in a voice made from the dying screams of 100 worlds. You are meat. Your thoughts are seasoning. Your worlds are our garden. Sarah felt sick. How did you escape? My mate, Veltar, was a ship designer. He had been working on vessels that could mask life signs, hide from any sensor. When the attack came, he got us to the prototype ship, this asteroid. But Kira's voice broke. He stayed behind to make sure we could escape. I watched our world die from the observation deck. I watched him die. They sat in silence for a moment. Two mothers from different species, sharing the weight of loss. Then Sarah asked the question that had been haunting her. Kira, when we arrived here, when we helped you, did we do something that might have attracted them? Before Kira could answer, alarms began shrieking throughout the asteroid. The holographic display of Ethros Prime flickered and died, replaced by sensor readings that made Sarah's blood run cold. Commander Chen! Torres's voice crackled through her communicator. Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures, multiple contacts moving at impossible speeds. They're heading straight for us. Sarah and Kira ran through the winding corridors of the asteroid home, reaching the bridge area where the crew had set up their temporary command post. The displays showed what Sarah had feared most. 5 massive shapes emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system, their forms barely registering on conventional sensors. How long do we have? Sarah demanded. At their current speed, maybe. 6 hours, Torres replied, his face pale. Commander, their energy output it's beyond our measurement capabilities. Each one of those ships could crack a moon. Dr. Martinez looked up from his portable scanner. Sarah, I'm detecting something else. The asteroid's biosystems are going into some kind of hibernation mode. The bioluminescent lights are dimming. The atmospheric processors are scaling back. Kira was at her own control interface, her 6-fingered hands dancing over crystalline panels. I am putting the home into deep stealth mode, but they are too close. If they have followed my distress call. Your distress call? Sarah spun around. You mean they could have been tracking it? Not the call itself, Kira said desperately. But when you responded, when your ship's engines fired, when you docked with us, all of that energy, all of that life activity in one place, it may have created a beacon. The weight of realization crashed down on Sarah. By trying to help, they had potentially doomed not just themselves, but this entire family of refugees. The guilt was overwhelming, but there was no time for self-recrimination. Options, she said, sharply. What are our options? We run, Park said immediately. The harmony is fast. We could be at the jump point in 4 hours, back to Earth and leave them here to die? Dr. Martinez interrupted. Absolutely not. We can't fight those things, Torres protested. Our weapons couldn't scratch the paint on one of their ships. There might be another way, Kira said quietly. Everyone turned to her. The deep dark. Even speaking the word seemed to cause her physical pain. Her skin shifted to deep purple. Terror, Sarah had learned. What's the deep dark? Sarah asked. A place between spaces. A realm where the devourers cannot follow, but Kira hesitated. Nothing living is meant to go there. Ships that enter sometimes never return. Others come back changed. Wrong, but if we could modify your ship's engines with our stealth technology, we could hide in this deep dark until they pass, Sarah finished. How long would we need to stay hidden? Days, weeks, maybe longer. Kira's eyes met Sarah's. And if the transition fails, if our modifications don't work, we all die instantly. Sarah looked around at her crew. Park was already pulling up engine schematics. Dr. Martinez was nodding grimly. Torres looked terrified but determined. There's something else, Kira said. If we do this, if we survive, you can never go back to your Earth the same way. The Devourers will have scanned your ship, learned about your species. They will follow your trail back to your homeworld eventually. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. By helping this alien family, humanity itself might have become a target. But looking at Kira's children, young beings who had already lost everything once, Sarah knew there was only one choice. How long do we need to make the modifications? 4 hours, Park said after consulting with Kira's technical displays. And they'll be here in 6, Torres added. It'll be close. As if summoned by their words, the long-range sensors chimed with an update. The Devourer ships had increased speed. New estimated arrival. 4 hours, 30 minutes. Then we'd better get started, Sarah said, and pray that helping each other is worth the risk to us all. As her crew rushed to begin the most important engineering project in human history, Sarah caught Kira's arm. If this works, if we survive this, I need you to tell me everything about the Devourers. Because I have a feeling Earth is going to need to know about them very, very soon. Kira's skin flickered between blue and silver, hope and fear in equal measure. If we survive this, Commander Chen, I will tell you everything. But first, we must make sure there is a future for both our peoples to share. Outside, in the cold vacuum of space, 5 shadows approached, harbingers of hunger and death, drawn by an act of compassion. The race against extinction had begun. Chapter 3. Into the deep dark. The asteroid home had become a hive of desperate activity. Human and etheric technology merged in ways that should have been impossible, guided by the universal language of survival. Sarah watched Engineer Park work alongside Veltar's eldest son, Zephyr, their hands, one with 5 fingers, one with 6, moving in perfect synchronization as they rewired the Harmony's core systems. Energy coupling stable, Park reported, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. But Commander, I have to tell you, what we're doing here is completely theoretical. The power requirements alone should tear our ship apart. Zephyr spoke in his melodic language and Kira translated. He says the theoretical limit is what kept his father safe in the design phase. But when the Devourers came, theory became survival. The impossible became necessary. Dr. Martinez burst into the engine compartment, his portable scanner beeping frantically. Sarah, you need to see this. The Devourers, they're not just getting closer. They're communicating. The main display flickered to life, showing the 5 massive ships now clearly visible against the starfield. But it was the audio that made everyone stop working. The voices were wrong, a harmony of sounds that could never come from living throats. Mechanical grinding mixed with organic whispers, creating words in perfect, chilling English. Small meat that hides. We taste your fear across the void. Your thoughts spice your flesh. We come to harvest. We come to learn. Show yourselves and no mercy and quickness. Kira's skin went completely white, a color Sarah had never seen before. They speak your language. They have consumed humans before. The blood drained from Sarah's face. That's impossible. Earth has never sent ships this far out. We would have known, unless the ships never returned to tell the tale, Dr. Martinez said grimly. Torres's voice crackled through the communication system. Commander, I'm picking up debris signatures, small pieces, but the metallurgy. It's consistent with Earth's early deep space probes, the ones that were listed as lost to equipment failure 20 years ago. Sarah felt sick. The exploration program she'd devoted her life to, The brave crews who had ventured into the unknown. How many had encountered these things? How many had died alone in the dark, their screams adding to the Devourer's terrible chorus? Engine modifications at 70%, Park reported, forcing himself back to the task at hand. But I'm seeing microfractures in the coupling systems. One bad transition, and we'll be vaporized before we can say goodbye. How much time? Sarah asked. 18 minutes until they reach scanning range, Torres replied. Once they lock onto us, stealth mode won't matter. They'll be able to track us anywhere in normal space. Kira moved to her children, gathering them close. The youngest ones looked up at her with complete trust, unaware that they were minutes away from either salvation or obliteration. She began to sing, a low, harmonic melody that seemed to resonate through the asteroid's crystalline structure. What is that? Dr. Martinez asked, his voice soft with wonder. A traveling song, Kira replied without stopping. We sing it when we move between the stars, to remember that wherever we go, we carry our home with us. Sarah found herself humming along, the alien melody somehow familiar, as if it spoke to something universal about the experience of being far from home. Around them, the rest of the crew joined in wordlessly, human voices blending with ethery in an improvised harmony of hope. Engine modifications complete, Park announced. All systems are green, but remember this is completely untested technology. The transition to deep dark could kill us just as easily as save us. The Devourer voices crackled through the communications. Array again, closer now, more personal. Brave meat that sings. We hear your music. We will add your voices to our collection. Your young will season our feast. That's it, Sarah said, standing up. Everyone to the bridge. It's time to find out if courage and desperation are enough to save us all. The combined crew, human and ethery, gathered in the Harmony's main compartment. Through the viewports, they could see the Devourer ships, no longer distant dots but clearly defined nightmares. Each vessel seemed to shift and writhe, as if the ships themselves were alive. Deep dark transition in 60 seconds, Park announced. All hands brace for something no one has ever experienced before. Kira took Sarah's hand in, her six-fingered grip. Commander, if this fails, know that you gave us something we hadn't felt in 3 years. What's that? The knowledge that strangers can become family. That help can come from unexpected places. That in a universe full of darkness, there are still those who choose to be light. Sarah squeezed Kira's hand. And you taught us that we're not alone in the cosmos, that there are others out there worth protecting, worth fighting for. 30 seconds, Park called out. Through the speakers, the Devourer voices had become a roar. Hiding meat. We see you. We taste you. We come. 10 seconds. Sarah closed her eyes. In the darkness behind her lids, she could see Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Unaware that nightmare was heading toward it. She could see her crew, brave souls who had followed her into the unknown. She could see Kira's children, alien but achingly familiar in their trust and vulnerability. 5, 4, 3, 2. The universe exploded around them. Reality twisted, folded, turned inside out. Sarah felt her consciousness scattered across dimensions that had no names, experienced colors that didn't exist, heard sounds that bypassed her ears and resonated directly in her bones. And then, silence. Perfect, absolute silence. Sarah opened, her eyes to find herself still in the bridge of the Harmony, still holding Kira's hand. But everything else had changed. Outside the viewports was not the star-filled void of normal space, but something that made her eyes water to look at directly. A realm of shifting geometries and impossible depths. Report, she managed to whisper. All systems stable, Parquet, replied, his voice shaking with amazement. Hull integrity holding, life support normal, we're actually here, wherever here is. Dr. Martinez was scanning frantically. No sign of the Devourers. Whatever this place is, we lost them. But it was Kira who voiced what they were all thinking. We're in the deep dark, the space between spaces, and we have no idea how to get home. As if in response to her words, something moved in the impossible distance, a shape that might have been a ship or a creature or something else entirely. It was coming toward them, and Sarah had the distinct feeling that their ordeal was far from over. In saving Kira's family, they had stepped outside the bounds of normal space and time. Now they would have to find their way back to a universe where ancient horrors hunted between the stars, and Earth itself might be the next target. The real adventure was just beginning. Chapter 4. The Deep Dark Revelation. Time moved strangely in the deep dark. Sarah couldn't tell if they'd been there for hours or days. The chronometers gave conflicting readings, and her body's internal clock seemed to have given up entirely. But the approaching shape in the distance had grown larger, more defined, and definitely more concerning. "It's not one ship," Torres reported, his voice tight with concentration. "It's dozens, maybe hundreds, all moving in formation." Through her binoculars, Sarah could make out details that made her question her sanity. The vessels were clearly artificial, but they seemed to be made from crystallized starlight and what might have been fossilized time. They moved through the non-space around them like fish through water that didn't exist. "Kira," she called, "have you ever seen anything like this?" The ethereal woman was studying her own instruments, her skin flickering through colors Sarah had learned indicated deep confusion. "Never. The stories of the deep dark speak of emptiness, of nothing. But this," Dr. Martinez looked up from his readings. "I'm detecting life signs, thousands of them. But they're old, really old. Some of these readings suggest biological ages in the millions of years." Before anyone could respond, the communications array activated on its own. The voice that emerged was ancient beyond measure, speaking in harmonics that bypassed language entirely and communicated meaning directly to their minds. "Welcome, refugees, to the harbor of last resort. I am eldest Thane of the Watchers. We have been expecting you." Sarah found her voice. "Expecting us?" "Time flows differently here, young captain. We saw your arrival in our yesterday, which is your tomorrow, which was also your past. The Devourers have driven many to our sanctuary. You are not the first, and will not be the last." The fleet of impossible ships arranged themselves around the asteroid home and the Harmony with mathematical precision. Sarah realized they weren't surrounded. They were being protected. "Come aboard our vessel if you dare trust strangers in strange places. There is much you must learn before you can return to your reality." Kira looked at Sarah. "Commander, in all our histories there are only whispers about the Watchers, beings so old they predate most of the known galaxy. If they truly want to help, we don't have much choice," Sarah replied. "Torres, you and Park stay with the ships. Dr. Martinez, you're with me and Kira." The transition from their vessel to the Watcher ship was accomplished through technology that made Sarah's head hurt. One moment they were in the familiar environment of the Harmony. The next they stood in a vast chamber that seemed to exist in several dimensions simultaneously. Eldest Thane was waiting for them. The being was humanoid in the loosest sense, tall, graceful, with features that seemed to shift between species as Sarah watched. Sometimes she saw hints of human characteristics, sometimes ethereal, and sometimes things she didn't recognize at all. "I am a composite," Thane explained, apparently reading her confusion. "When species take refuge here, they leave imprints. Over time, we Watchers absorb these echoes, becoming living records of civilizations that have sought sanctuary from the Devourers." "How many?" Kira asked. "How many peoples have they destroyed?" "In this galaxy alone, thousands. The Devourers are not native to your reality. They come from a universe where entropy won, where all things fell into darkness and hunger. They seek to remake all realities in their image." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "But they can be stopped, right? There has to be a way to fight them." Thane's form shifted, taking on aspects that reminded Sarah painfully of human features she recognized. explorers who had never returned home. Individual ships can be destroyed, yes, but they are not truly individuals. They are extensions of something greater, a collective consciousness that spans multiple realities. Destroy one and it learns from the experience. Attack them conventionally and they adapt. The only victory is prevention. Prevention? Sarah asked. Do not be found. Do not be detected. Do not draw their attention to new feeding grounds. Thane's attention turned to Sarah and she felt the weight of eons in that gaze. But you, Commander Chen, have already made that impossible for your species. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. What do you mean? Your ship, your technology, your biological signatures, all have been cataloged by the Devourers. They know about Earth now. In time, perhaps years, perhaps decades, they will come. Kira made a sound of distress. It is my fault. My distress call. My need for help. No, Thane interrupted firmly. It is no one's fault. The Devourers spread like an infection across realities. Eventually, they find every world. The question is not if, but when, and what can be done to prepare. Sarah felt the weight of her species' future settling on her shoulders. What can be done? Thane gestured, and the chamber around them transformed into a vast display, showing star charts, battle plans, and technologies beyond human comprehension. Unity. The civilizations that survive longest against the Devourers are those that stand together. Individually, you are meat. Together, you become something more difficult to digest. You're talking about an alliance, Dr. Martinez realized. Between species. More than alliance. Synthesis. The Etheri have mastery of stealth and energy manipulation. Humanity has shown remarkable adaptability and courage. There are others, scattered refugees, hidden colonies, entire civilizations, that have learned to mask their presence. Together, you might forge something the Devourers have never encountered. Kira's skin brightened to silver white. Hope, Sarah had learned. Others survive? Show them, Thane commanded the chamber. The display exploded with points of light, dozens of them scattered across local space. Each represented a hidden outpost, a surviving colony, a species that had learned to live in the shadows between the hunting grounds. My God, Sarah whispered, there's an entire hidden civilization out there. Waiting, planning, preparing for the day when hiding is no longer enough, when the choice becomes fight or face extinction. Thane's form solidified into something more definitively humanoid. The question, Commander Chen, is whether your species and Earth itself will join this hidden alliance or face the Devourers alone. Sarah looked at the star chart, at the scattered points of light that represented hope in the darkness. She thought of Earth, unaware and unprepared. She thought of Kira's children, who deserved a future free from fear. She thought of all the species yet to be discovered, all the worlds yet to be explored. How do we get back? She asked. How do we warn Earth and begin building this alliance? That, Thane said with what might have been a smile, is the first intelligent question anyone has asked in this place for several thousand years. The answer will require courage, sacrifice, and trust between strangers who must become family. Sarah extended her hand to Kira, who took it with her six-fingered grip. Then we'd better get started. As the Watcher ship began to move through the impossible geometries of deep dark space, Sarah realized that their rescue mission had become something far greater. They weren't just saving one alien family. They were about to forge the first alliance between Earth and the hidden civilizations of the galaxy. The Devourers had made one crucial mistake. By forcing species to hide, they had created the perfect conditions for those species to find each other. And now, with a human commander and an Etheri mother as unlikely ambassadors, the scattered survivors were about to become something the ancient hunger had never faced before. A unified resistance, born from an act of compassion between strangers. Epilogue: The Long Road. Home 6 months later, the Harmony emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, but it wasn't alone. A dozen ships of varying designs accompanied it: Etheri stealth vessels, Zelani research craft, and 3 other species that had answered Eldest Thane's call for unity. Sarah stood on the bridge, looking at Earth's blue-green beauty through the viewport. Home had never looked so precious or so vulnerable. Communication from Earth Defense Command, Torres reported. They're asking a lot of questions about our escort. Sarah smiled grimly. I imagine they are. Put me through to Admiral Rodriguez directly. The familiar face of her old mentor appeared on the screen, his expression cycling through surprise, relief, and concern as he took in the mixed fleet surrounding the Harmony. Sarah? We'd given you up for lost months ago, and what in God's name are those ships? The future, Admiral, if we're smart enough to accept it. Sarah took a deep breath. We need to talk, all of us, because humanity just became part of something much bigger than we ever imagined. Behind her, Kira approached with her youngest child in her arms. The little Etheri had been born during their journey through deep dark space, the first child born in that realm between realities. Dr. Martinez had insisted on checking the baby's health constantly, fascinated by how the unique environment had affected its development. Commander, Kira said softly, are you ready for this? Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew, her family, really. Park and Torres had spent months learning Etheri technology. Dr. Martinez had co-authored the first interspecies medical protocols in human history. They had all been changed by their journey, marked by experiences no human had ever shared. No, Sarah admitted. But ready or not, here we are. The communication continued as Admiral Rodriguez tried to process what he was being told. The Devourers, the Hidden Alliance, the scattered civilizations that had learned to survive in the shadows, and most importantly, the choice that now faced humanity. Join the Alliance and help build a resistance, or face the coming darkness alone. How long do we have? Rodriguez asked finally. Eldest Thane estimates 5 to 10 years before the Devourers track our signature back to Earth, Sarah replied. Long enough to prepare, if we start now. Not long enough if we waste time debating whether the threat is real. As the Harmony and its escort were granted permission to approach Earth, Sarah felt the weight of the future settling around them all. They had gone into space to answer a distress call and had ended up as ambassadors to a hidden galaxy. They had saved one family and discovered that thousands of species were waiting in the shadows, hoping for allies. Kira moved to stand beside her, the baby making soft, chittering sounds that might have been laughter. What will you name him? Sarah asked. Hope, Kira replied in her musical language. Then, in English, his name is Hope, because that is what you gave us when you answered my call. And that is what we must give to all our peoples now. Sarah nodded, watching Earth grow larger as they approached. Somewhere below, politicians and military leaders were having emergency meetings. Scientists were analyzing the alien technologies. Citizens were seeing the first images of non-human intelligence in history. But here on the bridge, surrounded by beings who had started as strangers and become family, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced since this all began. Optimism. Tapur. Devourers were coming. The galaxy was full of hidden civilizations waiting to be united. Humanity was about to take its first real steps into a universe far stranger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. But they wouldn't be taking those steps alone. As the mixed fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, Sarah opened a channel to all. This is Commander Sarah Chen to all vessels. Welcome to Earth. Welcome to the beginning of something new. Behind them, the deep dark held its secrets. Ahead of them, Earth awaited its new destiny. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, ancient hungers stirred, unaware that the scattered prey they had driven into hiding was finally ready to become predators themselves. The age of humanity standing alone in the cosmos was over. The age of the Alliance had begun. The end.